perfectionism is paralyzing. I am a perfectionist. I grew up as a perfectionist. Like, it's still something I struggle with, but I'm telling you, I've let that shit go so much. And it's been...
There is this inner child wound. We're used to just kind of pushing forward, moving forward and doing things, and expressing our emotions was not taught. So in adulthood, we find it awkward. But I am a genius avoider. Genius.
Yeah,
I can outsmart myself.
Me too.
So
I have to get my Oura ring, and I'm like, Oura ring says I'm stressed out. I must be stressed out. I'm going to just get up from my computer. Welcome to Another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. I'm Danielle Kiesling, and in each episode, I connect you with unparalleled access to authentic, credible voices from across the entire world of beauty, wellness, fashion, travel, and mindset. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Another Million Miles, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys that shape us, the lessons that redefine success, and the mindset shifts that help us live with purpose. So today, I'm joined by the incredible Zerina Derveni, self-discovered expert and certified life coach who has made it her mission to help high-achieving, successful women reconnect with their authentic selves and create lives that truly align with who they are. So I'm super excited. You all know that I have a big heart for mindset and passion for helping women really grow other women. So thank you, Zerina, for being on Another Million Miles today.
thank you for having me. I've actually been looking forward to this episode and admire the work you've done for women. So excited.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I think we'll start there, right? So how did you get into helping women, and what stemmed that passion for you?
Yeah. So I think when I was younger, just starting my career, and I had spent now over a decade in corporate, there was this urge to want to help women, to want to have a platform. I mean, I even joined Miss Universe Canada, and I am not a pageant girl. I admire and respect, women who do that because it takes a lot of effort. But I think I was in my own way trying to connect with a crowd of women at that time, what I knew best. But I still couldn't really figure out, what it was that I could really offer women. So, fast forward 12 years later, being in corporate, having had so many life experiences, there was this reoccurring theme in my life of trying to figure myself out. And I call it self-discovery. And I think as women, there's stats out there that show we go through transitions maybe 5 to 7 times on average in a lifetime. So I was, figuring out myself, figuring out my higher purpose, figuring out my values, figuring out what I wanted in life, and it was hard because you listen to society, you listen to your environment, and then you have, your inner thoughts and your inner desires. Going through that struggle and going through that challenge, I think, with maturity and life experiences, I got to a place in my life where I left the corporate world. I was, successful, but left because I wanted to have a higher purpose. And I kind of came back to this desire and fulfilling feeling of wanting to create a platform and a support system for women. So I decided to get certified as a life coach. Now, I've always kind of been that person, that friend, that family member, that colleague people would go to when they had problems. I was always just very solution focused, calm, collective, and really gave people good advice and guidance for their life. And I think the one thing that really gave me confidence to be a coach has nothing to do with intelligence, although that's important. It had to do with my ability to be able to intuitively connect with people and find words that they're trying to say, but they can't, because I struggled with that so much. So I just had that gift where I was able to really, curate these words that people were feeling when they were stuck or lost. So, I mean, it was a long journey, Danielle, but I think it really kind of led me back to now having this connection with women, but with a greater purpose versus this superficial, I just want to help women, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that, I love your story that you took something that you were good at, maybe not certified at the time, but you were able to tap into that and, have the courage to walk away from something that wasn't serving you and say, I'm good at this. I'm going to acknowledge this and I'm going to lean into this. And this is how I can, get up every morning and make a difference. But this is what I enjoy doing with my life. And this is where I'm really where I thrive. And so what was that journey like for you? Because leaving a comfortable situation isn't always easy.
Yeah, it was definitely at that a little bit confusing for me because I had this, energy, this passion for it. And I felt very much so sure of wanting to do it. But obviously when you're an adult and you have financial responsibilities, you have to think these things over. And it took me 6 months. And I said, okay, if I still feel this excitement in my gut, because there are those decisions that you make that are obviously mindful, and you listen to your intuition, but I had to make sure that my gut was feeling like, okay, this is something that I still want to do. So I gave myself 6 months.
Okay.
And I was still feeling excited about it. Then I gave myself another 3 to 4 months to get certified and to do all the training that I needed. And then I had to obviously, plan the next couple of months to leave a corporate position that I had because I wanted to leave in good standing. So I went through certain, beliefs where I was like, should I do this? Okay, go for it. And then after there was this other side of me that was like, you're leaving security, you're leaving comfort. Are you sure you want to do this? Especially I was at a stage in my life where I actually wanted to settle down, have a family, build something more than just my career. But I don't know, there was this inner voice, this inner gut feeling that said, no, you need to do this. This is the time. It's never the time in the future, right? We always make excuses. So I listened to it and I'll tell you, it was the best decision I made, but it was difficult the first years, unless you're really clear and genuinely you see your purpose, you got to be resilient because it is really hard to leave something that is so secure.
Yeah.
Right? Like a job. It doesn't have to be a corporate job, a job. And then to go out there and start a business. Like it is a lot of work, but I've not looked back.
Yeah.
I've had hard days, but I've never looked back. So that's to me telling I'm in the right spot.
And how long have you been doing this? How long have you been, coaching and mentoring?
Yeah. So I've been mentoring for so many years, but really coaching now, life coaching, I've been doing it for almost 2.5 years.
Okay. Wow. And where are you located?
I'm in Toronto.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. So I'm in Toronto. I have my clients in Toronto. I do workshops, but a lot of my clients are actually international.
Nice.
So it's been interesting. Yeah. I've got a lot of clients in the US. I've got some in the UK. So I do a lot of my sessions virtually, and then I find clients actually feel a little bit more comfortable speaking in their own environment. So
yeah. That's so cool. So how did you, for those out there, wanting to grow businesses that are international, how did you kind of go about that? Did you use social media? Did you, how did you approach that?
Yeah. So I think coming from the corporate world and always being in North America as my region, it's so funny because when I started coaching, I was like, it was a no-brainer. It was going to be North American. Like I didn't even think to start locally. My brain is so used to thinking like on a larger scale. So everything that I was curating, it was already taking into effect that I was going to make sure that, I was going to reach out to clients in North America. So I think having that mindset first was for me a first step. And then you'll hear so many advice from other coaches, and I can only speak on the life coach because it's the only business I've really started on my own. I had a lot of success through editorial content. I know people say social media. I mean, I'm still working on that. But for me personally, and given my credentials and given my, experience and everything in life, I decided to go to editorial route. I find even the clients I attract are different clients from that kind of channel. So that's been really successful for me, especially with the US clients.
Wow, that is actually, I love that you said that. I have a similar story as far as that goes with the beauty industry. And, I asked because I feel like everybody uses social media so heavily to grow their businesses. But, I really haven't had to lean in that much on social. So because of the credibility. So I love that. I think that that's something that people forget, that, there's a whole world of writers out there and and editorial channels that can help push your story, push your journey, and help you get the credibility. I think that the credibility is everything. That's super cool.
It really is. It is. And it's nice when when I have my discovery calls, right? The first call when you're speaking to a potential client, it's nice that they get to reach out to me if they're coming, which most of them are outside of referral coming from the editorial channel. It's nice to hear what resonated with them, right?
Yeah.
So then I can then understand, as a coach, where my strengths are with them. So it is a unique channel. And I'm glad to hear you had the same experience, because I've sat on so many business workshops and I just keep hearing lead generation, social media. I'm like, but that does not work for me.
Girl,
Am I missing something?
I'm like, I can't. I did it for like about 2 years with a partner. And I'm like, if I have to like hear one more thing about a lead funnel and, like, just, I was like, I am over it. I just want to go back to the old school way of thinking where I get to contribute to like Glamour magazine or, In Style or something and gain my credibility that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So yeah, I hear you.
With over 26 years of real life experiences as a thriving entrepreneur, I'm here to bring you sophistication, insight, and expertise into every aspect of your life. This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
What do you see like a problem right now out there, mostly in like mindset? What are the challenges that you're facing right now, kind of that are consistently being brought up?
Yeah. So as a life coach, I help women that are feeling stuck, lost, right, in life. Very, very few of them will reach out to me because they're just curious, right? So taking the women who are feeling lost and stuck, I either help them personally. So they're dealing with a personal matter. It could be their, personal identity matter, or they're dealing with a relationship issue. Usually it's a romantic relationship, but that's one area. The second area is professionally. So I help women who are high achievers. They could be in mid to senior roles, and let's say they're having a challenge stepping into a leadership role because of colleagues, team dynamic, culture, or they have a difficult boss. That's a common one. So knowing that those are kind of my two audiences, what I'm noticing that's similar with high achieving women, and I classify them pretty much as that, right? Because they're growth oriented. They want this great life, want to feel aligned, but they're struggling.
Okay.
The first is this disbelief that they have. So as a life coach, I'm also right now being certified as a brain coach, and I do a lot of subconscious work, and it's really rewiring. I mean, you'll hear this mindset coach, all that. It's really rewiring what is in the brain right now.
Yeah.
Why you're thinking what you're thinking. Why are you going back to old habits, old patterns, right? So it's my self-discovery framework, which I really work on in both areas of life. It's really this awakening phase of understanding yourself and being vulnerable, but being accountable, right? And then from there, we do a lot of work, and this is where the messiness is, in the unlearning phase. So a lot of these women, they're stuck on old beliefs, unfortunately. They have, sometimes limiting beliefs on themselves because of what society, the environment has kind of like pressured them, or subconsciously even persuaded them to think. Like a lot of my clients, honestly, they have wonderful mothers, but they lack nurturing growing up.
Yeah.
And their mothers kind of put on this survival mode to them. So they're now in adulthood doing well, but they're constantly in survival mode. And when I sit back and say, we need to stop, this is survival mode, there's resistance. They're like, no, this is what you need to do in life. This is how you get by. And I'm like, no, let's unlearn this. Let's go another way. And I think a lot of it, again, it's their brain framework, and it's what they believe, it's old habits. So, there are a few areas where I think as women, we all struggle with. And I think, again, beliefs is one, but also we get to this level where our voice gets a little bit quiet. We don't want to hurt others. We have difficulty communicating our needs, right? We're great emotional creatures, much better than men for sure verbally when it comes to our emotions and expressing them.
Yeah.
But ironically, very few of us have a hard time expressing our emotional needs. And I find intelligent women who are high achieving are probably the worst at that.
Really? That's
So they can easily talk about,
why is that?
I think they overthink things. That's definitely one, right? So intelligent women are known to overthink things. That's why they're good in business. They're analytical. They know, how to like read in between the lines. I mean, I was a notorious overthinker. Notorious. It made me really good in business, horrible in my relationships, right? Because you're just overthinking things. That's one area, overthinking. And then, there is this inner child wound where we're used to just kind of pushing forward, moving forward and doing things and expressing our emotions was not taught. And so in adulthood, we find it awkward, uncomfortable to be able to express our needs, right? Yeah. So it's really is this mindset that we've developed as a young child into adulthood. And because we've seen successes professionally, through being kind of like, a go-getter, having that hustle mentality, being strong, being logical. When it comes to expressing our emotions, it's the one area we feel uncomfortable, we fear it, so we don't go into it. But now, if you ask me what is truly a happy person or a successful person, I always say it's someone who can express their emotional needs or just their needs effectively.
Yeah.
That to me is a successful person versus ask me that a couple of years ago, I would think someone who's obviously, built and has a successful business. But now it's different because if you're able to express your needs, I think all areas of your life will eventually align and you'll just really go into this higher version of yourself that you couldn't in the past.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. So I, personally, I can tell you, like, I've struggled with that my whole life. And I can relate to the whole, like, having a powerful mother, but not a nurturing mother is like a nurturing, like, persona, like the perfect house, the perfect, here you can dress up and I'll give you money to go buy your, whatever you want, but like not like an actual relationship, like things that like stand out to me are like when I got married for the first time, like she could have cared less. Like it wasn't like she had nothing to do, like wanted nothing to do with a wedding. And I remember thinking like, this is so bizarre. This is like my mother, right? And it wasn't because of my husband. It was just not in her wheelhouse to be like a motherly mother. And, I didn't learn that until I was an adult. So I struggled with it. But it's really interesting when you say being able to emotionally like just like ask for what you need. And in the roles of like leadership driven women, you're right. It was like always uncomfortable for me to say like, I don't do PowerPoints. I need somebody to help me with this, or this is not my strength. And like, I'm a human being. You eat, sleep, and breathe the 24 hours that you do. And there is only so many hours in the day. And in order to be my highest self, I'm going to need people to step up and do their job. And it's so interesting because it was so hard for me to communicate that. But the minute I started doing that, couple of years ago, it's like my life got so much easier. Like, and it's odd that you don't even think you think it's like a negative thing because like you said, your subconscious mind is wired to think that or protect your emotions per se. But what I found was you gain so much more respect because then you become like a real human being and you become more relatable and people actually gravitate towards you because it's like, oh, she's successful, she's a leader, but even she doesn't have all of it together all of the time.
Yeah. Could not, like everything you just shared, by the way, I could not relate any more than like it's ridiculous how my journey was also very similar in a different way. But, as a leader, truly, if you want to be a leader, and it doesn't need to really mean you have to be this like powerhouse woman. Like if that's what you like, go for it, right? I think that's great. But if you really want to be the leader in your life and you want to be the leader of your mind, know that if you can delegate that is like the number one skill for a good leader, is really knowing who to delegate a task to. It's not doing it yourself. It's, yes, you got to step in when things, maybe go south, but it's being able to delegate. And when I have these conversations, especially on the professional coaching, when I tell a woman, like, this is what's going to make you a great leader is for you to delegate so you can have more impact. And obviously I say it a little bit differently, but the high level is like that. There's this like sense of relief. It's like, I gave them this permission and I'm like, but I don't need to give you this permission, right? And this is you. This is what you can do. And like all things in the beginning, change is scary, but the moment you get into it and you start seeing the results, kind of like your journey, you really then start to understand the impact of it and the power of it. And you start to attract, honestly, even better opportunities when you have that higher self-worth or respect for yourself.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I see, there's people coming to my mind that I'm like, yeah, I see it all the time. I just see women are like, we're programmed to, be nurturing and take control and like problem solve, I think, or like make sure that everybody feels okay about everything, when it's as easy as being like, okay, I have a team, I have people in my life, I pay people to do things. Why am I sitting here trying to figure out how to close some stupid pop-up browser on my computer when I can literally, I'm like, I've got assistants, I've got people. Like, you just have to reach out and like stop trying to do it all yourself. It's just such an it's such an easy thing, but it's not.
Yeah. I want to share this because I think it kind of makes sense why we as women do that. So in corporate, I just had the best colleagues who really helped me, and they were all men, unfortunately. I wish I had more women colleagues, but my experience was very male dominated. But here's what I learned from them that they did really well that I actually bring into my coaching. What I learned is that men are really good at prioritizing priorities, right? So we can go into a day and we can talk about what we need to do. And they're just really good at sticking to the priority, shifting to the priority, focusing to the priority. Now, women, we are so task oriented. Our brain is wired to focus on tasks. So even if we have a priority like self-care should always be a priority, right? Or if you have an important business meeting, that should be a priority. It shouldn't be you going to the grocery store, you helping out a friend, you walking your dog, you do it. Like, it is so funny how our brain is wired to signify or signal that tasks are a priority versus what our actual priorities are. So I think that is what really overwhelms us.
That's so interesting you say that, because I see that I still do it and I'm like aware of it. But I'm sorry, you were cutting out a little bit when you started talking. So you said that you were like in a situation with male dominant leaders that helped you kind of go through the corporate world and the cycle. And then it was starting to cut out a little bit. My internet's been
okay.
Little,
it's okay.
Let me hear this again. It's so important because I was saying the other day because I have two business partners that are both males, and they are just like, and we are great at business because I'm more of the like artistic creation. Like, I'll just throw all these ideas out and they're just like very task oriented, which that's definitely like a character of the difference between the male and the female. But I find myself, like, I always say I'm better under pressure. And I'm like, and if you give me a month at home, I will freaking paint a room, like knowing that I have to, finalize my contracts for work for the following week or something. What is that?
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. Here we go beyond surface level advice. We dive deep into transformational insights from experts who set the standard in their fields.
So we can unpack that for sure. But what I was definitely trying to allude to, which maybe even for you, I think maybe mentally, because you're experienced enough and I think you've probably reached so many milestones to know when you need to shift, what your focus needs to be in business, right? But just subconsciously, just as women, where our brain is wired is we think tasks are important and a priority versus working with men. What I learned, like we would go into business meetings. I would probably do a breakdown of things in myself, right? To prepare. I would do a breakdown of things. I would do research. I would do this. I would do that. I had an idea of an agenda that we were going to talk to. So I came prepared for that.
Yeah.
But going into certain meetings in boardrooms, men would just shift to whatever the priority was. There was no, oh, I did this and I did that. And my head right away, instead of focusing on that actual conversation, my head would go, but my task list, I did all that, right?
Yeah.
So the way our brains are wired is to focus on tasks in addition to priorities, whereas men, and that's why we feel overwhelmed as women. That's why we get anxious. That's why we have this nervous system that for men, it doesn't exist. They focus on priorities. Like, I got to wake up. I got to go to work. I got to eat. I got to wake up. I got to call my mom. I got to get ready. I got to do this. I got to make the bed. Like, listen, I'm not saying that our tasks are not important. What I'm trying to say is getting into the habit of prioritizing your priorities. So for me, I've got usually 2 to 3 priorities every day. One is self-care. Non-negotiable, right? So do something good for me, eat healthy, go for a walk, go to the gym. Like, that's non-negotiable. Work, be efficient in my work. That's a priority. That means sometimes I can't do other things if it's a priority.
Yeah.
The third one is connection, right? Connection and love. So for me, it's important to feel I can have the best day at work. I can make all the money in one day. If I'm not having that human connection with the close ones around me and prioritizing that and focusing on that, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So it's making time for that. So if somebody calls me in the evening, I'm picking up that phone call and making sure that I'm having that connection, that love piece, because it's a priority for me outside of work. So I'm pretty clear what my 3 priorities are. If something comes up, obviously it's life. I'm not saying I'm rigid to it, but I have to make sure, okay, if somebody needs me, let's say, my mom calls me, something happened, or a friend calls me, or just something happened in life, I got to make sure, okay, today's work schedule, can I actually leave?
Yeah.
Will I be able to leave? So I really do a lot of my decision making around my priorities versus in the past, oh my God, my task list was more important.
Yeah, that's so
Right?
interesting. Yeah. I think that's what I do. I am a driven person, so I have priorities, but what I find is when I get overwhelmed with those priorities, I go into task mode. And that's why
Of
sometimes
course.
I'm like, I got to get the hell out of my office because I will do everything under the sun and except for what I'm supposed to focus on. Like,
Yeah.
and that I just know myself now that I have to step out. I go walk around the block. I go take whatever it is, just a reset because it's not worth fighting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great that you know yourself, you know that pattern and when you're procrastinating, really, you're walking away to get that reset. A lot of us, we'll just go on overdrive. Again, we go back to what we're comfortable with. And our brain is so powerful that it could easily tease us and say, but you did 3 hours worth of admin work. You're okay. But in reality, it's like, well, no, my priority was to do this one thing that would have been more impactful, right?
Yeah.
We only use 5% of our conscious brain. And that's actually like a very generous percentage. I've done studies where scientists think it's even less. It's like 0.55. It's not even 5%, but let's just take 5% of our conscious mind. And then 95 of it is all in the subconscious. It's being able for us to work both in parallel. It's not using one over the other. It's learning how to use both of our mindsets in parallel and questioning things, right? So if I'm feeling tired, I'm like, okay, am I really tired? Am I trying to, because I'm still dealing with this and struggling with this, but I am a genius avoider. Genius.
Yeah.
I can outsmart myself.
Me
yeah.
too.
I can. So
Me too.
I have to be able, I mean, listen, right?
I have to get my Oura ring and I'm like, Oura ring says I'm stressed out. I must be stressed out. I'm going to just get up from my computer right now.
Right? We're so good at that. And it's being able to call your bluff, but being able to do it in an effective way, right? Going all the way back to being able to communicate your needs effectively. All of this, it's being able to show yourself self-respect and grace, but it's using the right words where it's like, okay, Zerina, yes, you have a lot going on. I'm sure you are mentally tired, but the reality is if you don't get this done, you're going to be even more drained next week. And look, 70% of the time, that self-talk works.
Yeah.
30% of the time, I actually do what you just said. And I love that. I have to change my environment. I need some sort of reset, whether it's aspirational, whether it's like remove yourself. Like I need to really just do something where my brain is not thinking and I'm just visually just doing something.
Yeah.
So that's what I find works for me, and it's great. And it's taken a lot of trial and errors to get there, and I'm sure it will continue to evolve, but keep that curiosity mindset always open because I think it's important because our brain can be so smart.
Do you find, because I mean, this is a challenge for me, I haven't ever spent this much time home, so like after the world kind of changed and we were doing more of like at home work and like getting on Zoom calls and, I had to learn that I would heavily procrastinate when I didn't want to, like, when something wasn't like, it was like, oh my God, I'm bored out of my mind. This isn't like what I typically used to do. So then I would like write a list of like things every night that like I hope to get accomplished, and then I would have my priorities. Like these are the things I have to get accomplished, but these are the things that I can do if I start going off on one. And it's like things that needed to get done around the house or things that needed to get done, but like I had to be in the mood to do them. And like things that I didn't even like necessarily like to do, like, unpack my suitcase from my last trip and, like just silly things. But like for whatever reason, once I would start squirreling or if I woke up in a certain mood, I was just like, ooh, I feel like I need to like knock out that hideous chore that I've been procrastinating on forever. So it's interesting. I've had to play to like my mindset of like, where is your mind right now? And like work with it and not against it,
Yeah.
Which when I like figured that out, it helped me a lot because otherwise I would just be like looking at like the task list and I'm like, I don't want to do any of this shit. I'm going to go take a bike ride, and that wasn't good either. Cause to your point, then I would come home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in the weeds, and like, then you go down the, central nervous system hell where you're just like, okay, now I need to drink a glass of wine because my central nervous system's freaking out. And, and that's all of it. It's just a spiral. But when I learned to like have my priorities, but then have my little, like, I called them squirrel projects, but I'm like, okay, which one here feels like I could like actually wrap my head around that right now? And if I would go do it for 10 minutes and start getting like
This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
I literally had like started on something. I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this on the computer. I don't feel like being on the computer. So while I wait for that to like finalize, I'm going to go start this project. And then I'm like, but I know that's not really what I want to do today. So I'm going to, and I had 3 projects that I was just kind of going back and forth with, and all of them got done that day. But I never have done that before. I'm always like, get it, grind it, go, get like, and it was like this mindset where that's when I would lose the balance in my life,
You know what I find, Danielle, because I think it's so interesting what you're talking about. I think what's made you successful is a certain behavioral pattern in the past, right? Let's say even like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you've evolved so much, right? So I think sometimes we stick, because I find myself doing this, especially when I'm creating content for my coaching business, which by the way, clients is what brings in money from my coaching business. It's not my content, but I can easily get swept up in content, easily 20 hours a week, right? Because in the past, how I became successful in business was being able to be a bit creative, innovative, and just do these things, right? Which is great. And I think that's what I kind of brought into my coaching content for my programs. That's a little bit different. But sometimes I can easily, it's comfortable. I can spend 20, 30 hours a week doing some stuff that are not necessarily ROI related. They're just like nice things that make me feel good. But in life, we have limited time and we have to make sure that what we're doing with our time, because I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I can, but I don't want to. Whatever we're doing, we're being effective, that we can actually grow our ability to delegate tasks that we don't want to do. Like I Every Friday I have to do admin and I hate it. And I do it on Friday because it's a little bit more like, exciting because the weekend's around the corner. And honestly, I hate it. And the first thing I tell myself when I'm ready to hire that first person, they're going to be doing all my admin. Like I'm already delegating something that I don't like, right?
Yeah.
But I noticed, especially this year in my business, I noticed I was bringing on a lot of old patterns that made me successful in the past, where now I'm another level of involvement as a businesswoman. I need to get into the habit of just being efficient,
Yeah.
but being efficient of start, finish. If I want to refine something or make it better, I can go back. But just literally, there is a simple process, start, finish.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be perfect. Start, finish, right? And I think once we get into the habit of start, finish, then really the ones that we're really genuinely interested in, we'll go back and we'll refine it and we'll perfect it, right? But we are living in this world where literally life is so busy and we do not have the same time we did before. Like bring in AI now, it's another beast. We have to really just be productive in our ability to be productive.
Yeah.
And some of the most successful women that I've met are doers. They're not thinkers. They're just getting shit done. Do
Yeah.
it. Start, finish.
Yeah.
They're not thinking like how to make something perfect. And that is always like a good wake up call for me when
Yeah.
I want to go into like, my subconscious of thinking I'm being efficient by perfecting things that just really don't really have the value at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a call out. And it's also, like I had a former business partner that was like that. And it's why we're not business partners anymore. Cause I'm just like, I have a mindset of like, just go. Perfectionism is paralyzing. Like if you are a perfectionist in your mindset, which I am a perfectionist. I grew up as a perfectionist. I got praised by my parents for being perfect. Grades perfect. Just like you name it, like
Yeah.
the bubble looked perfect, and so that was and it's still something I struggle with, but I'm telling you, I've let that shit go so much, and it's been so eye-opening because it's the successful people like I've noticed a pattern that they, to your point, is they just do. I mean,
Yeah.
you think that sometimes you have to dig a little deeper and like look at really the big picture and the grand scheme, because they're not sitting around trying to perfect everything. They're just getting shit done. And, to your point, you can always go back if you have, if you feel inspired to, emphasize a certain task or like, add to, or, I learned that creating websites, like I just was like, oh my God, we just got to get this shit done. We can go back. It's just code. We can go back and change it.
Exactly.
Like, you just got to
Yeah.
move on. And like, and I think that's a huge message.
Huge. Yeah. And again, that concept of start finish, where we get lost in between and we overthink like, oh, we're going to have to do this and we're going to have to do that. Literally start and finish. And I think that just kind of helps eliminate a lot of the pressures that we have. It helps eliminate procrastination. Like if I, for example, let's just say I had to work on an editorial piece, right? As a life coach, let's just say, and someone asked me, I want you to write this 2-page summary of 2 things that women suffer with. I would start off with literally thinking, okay, what are the 2 main points I want to get out? On a piece of paper, write those 2. Step away. Step away, really get my message clear, my key message. And I think that's more effective. I can research, I can find the best articles. Trust me, my brain will trick me into spending easily 6 hours. But you know what I started doing, Danielle? I started really diving into my personal experience, because there's so much theory out there and it sounds great and there is this fluff around it, sure. But life really comes down to experience. And I think people are starved for real experience, authentic information versus this theory fluff that, sounds great, but what's the point if it's not realistic in my life?
Oh, Zerina, I think that that's actually such a great way to like wrap this up, because I think that is everything. If there is one thing that people are listening can walk away with, is your life matters, your journey matters. Stay true to it. Like can help so many people when you just share your story, share your work around your processes, your gifts to, people, and stop overthinking it. I love what Mel Robbins always says. She's like, let them.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Let them,
So
and
powerful.
it is so powerful. Are we doing it correctly? Blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah. We are all human. We all wake up every morning and we all go to bed at night. And what makes anybody so different in this world is, I think, your human connection and your authenticity. And that's what
Right.
people wanted. That's what people want.
I'm just going to say, lastly, I think, kind of going back to the type of clients I see, it's so interesting because my professional ones that are struggling professionally, relationship wise, personal wise, their life is great. They don't really have issues. And then my clients who are struggling on the personal side, mainly relationships, their professional life is great. And the one thing I've noticed, and kind of like the whole let them theory, is the level of emotional attachment they have is the area they're struggling with. So it's really like learning how to detach from that and live in their self-worth, right? And I'm talking like it's so easy, like it's a linear process. It's not, but I think awareness and unlearning are two important phases that you need to go through because you're going to encounter challenges in life. But when you have those tools embedded in your brain, it's just going to be so much easier for you. And you're going to be operating from a place of empowerment and clarity versus chaos and confusion.
Yeah. Yeah, Zerina, where do my listeners find you and follow you and get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you?
Yeah, so on my website at zerinalifecoach.com, there is a contact section there, but before you even go there, there is a list of services that I have there depending on, where you're at in your journey and what you're struggling with. You can select there, but for any of your listeners that maybe want to have a complimentary 1-hour call with me, send me a DM on Instagram at Zerina Life Coach. I'm happy to do that. It's actually something I'm just trialing out for the first month. So it would be, very nice for your listeners to get access to that for the first time. And yeah, I'm happy to schedule an hour. I call it a life strategy call. I mean, it's a good starting point to even see if coaching is for you because it's not for everybody. But I think, having that conversation will definitely help you in whatever you're dealing with in life.
Well, thank you again, Zerina. You have been such a blessing and so much fun. I love to have like-minded individuals on this podcast. It means so much, I think, to our listeners, and its mindset is everything. So again, friends, what a powerful conversation with Zerina. She's such a reminder of true success, what it is when we strip away expectations and return to our authentic selves. In my opinion, her insights on self-discovery, mindset, and transformation are the kind of wisdom that we should all be carrying through our daily lives. And if today's episode resonated with you, make sure to follow Another Million Miles. Share this episode with someone who is ready to rediscover who they really are. As always, remember every step you take towards your truth brings you another mile closer to the life that you're meant to live. Thank you, Zerina.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on Another Million Miles, where luxury and authenticity meet to enrich your journey. This is Another Million Miles, and I'll see you on the path ahead in our next episode. Until then, keep embracing the journey, savoring each moment, keep dreaming big and moving closer to the life you envisioned, and traveling afar.